news on Atlantic Television Network. First, the headlines. Court adjourns Fubara's case against Assembly. Supreme Court declines to sack Governor Uzodimma. Senate warns MDAs against sabotage. NLC seeks new national minimum wage. Iranian President Putin meets in Russia Thursday. Stars set to drop new single featuring Ashake. Guardiola predicts Man City will win Premier League. And now to the rest of our stories. The Ishiopu High Court in Rivers State has adjourned to December 20th to hear Governor Siminalayi Fubara's case brought against the Rivers State House of Assembly, the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, the Clerk, and the Chief Judge of the state. The adjournment followed after two sets of lawyers appeared in court in defense of the Martin Amehule-led House of Assembly and Edison Ehe-led House of Assembly when the matter came up for hearing. The lawyers told the court that they are appearing for two different sets of clerks who are also defendants. One of the lawyers from the Edison Ehe's camp, who wants to remain anonymous, in an interview explained that due to the conflict in legal representation, the judge advised them to sort themselves out and return to court over who is the right person representing the defendant. Recall that Governor Fubara had approached the River State High Court to stop the River State House of Assembly from proceeding with the impeachment process against him pending the hearing and determination of the suit he filed before the court. The conflict in legal representation in the current suit instituted by Governor Siminalayi Fubara may not be unconnected to the speakership tussle in the River State House of Assembly following the impeachment proceedings on 30th of October. Federal High Court in Port Harcourt has ordered that a suit seeking the takeover of the functions of the Rivers Assembly by the National Assembly be transferred to the Abuja Division. Justice P.M. Aoya presided over the court, said since the National Assembly listed that the first respondent in the matter is located in Abuja and there is a similar action filed in the nation's capital with same parties, the case in Port Harcourt should be sent to Abuja for hearing and determination. Speaking on Atlantic Television Open Conversation, a public affairs analyst, Professor Vincent Welly, described plans by the National Assembly as constitutionally in line with the fact that the dividends of democracy must be duly delivered to the people as expected and on time.
The National Assembly has invoked the necessary laws that they have to take over the functions because they cannot perform here, given the court injunctions restraining both factions not to perform any legislative function. I think that's the right thing to do. So let's give them the benefit of that, let them perform. But there is also a court injunction restraining them from performing. So we're in a situation where we are looking up to the judiciary.
He said the political crisis in River State is political inclined and further called on the judiciary to ensure that judgment is passed without sentiment.
If the National Assembly takes over the legislative functions of River State Assembly, the sitting governor may find it very difficult to push whatever he wants to push through if those at the national are loyal to the former governor. But I am very careful to state here that is it between the former governor and the present governor? If there's a matter, what is the matter all about? Here that is it between the former governor and the present governor? If there's a matter, what is the matter all about? Because there's nothing anybody have said that this is the problem. this is my problem with you. I've not established any case with you. So making it look like there's a case, as alleged, people are saying. But me, I'm still looking deep to find out to see what is it that the former governor, what is the problem between the former governor and the present governor? Where is the point of disagreement? What is the matter that nobody can say this is it? Everybody has been speculating. It's been speculative. And so making it look like some people are with the former governor and some people are with the current governor.
Students of the University of Calabar have taken to the streets in protest against the hike of tuition fees over by 100%. The management of the University of Calabar had over the weekend held a meeting when the decision to increase tuition fees was reached. In a statement by the university's PRO, F. Young AO, made available to newsmen on Monday, disclosed that the upward review of the tuition fees was taken at an emergency meeting of the University Senate on Friday. Speaking on Atlantic Television Society Watch, a public affairs analyst, Kingsley Dan Patrick, blamed the federal government of Nigeria for not placing education as a priority.
Any regard for the education of Nigerian students. Because you look at the 2024 budget as submitted, 27 point something trillion naira. 2.1 trillion naira is allocated to the education sector, which is around 7% of the budget. Now, 96% of that 2.1 trillion naira is allocated to paying salaries and pensions. So what is left to manage
He also found that several challenges faced overseas by Nigerians on their bid for equality in education.
Asia to get an education by hook or by crook. Now, when I say by hook, I don't mean by with nefarious activities, but they have battled to secure student loans, get academic visas, and they go and hustle, work while schooling. The numbers are mind-blowing. This morning, or was it yesterday, the UK has come out with statements restricting even academic visas.
150.
It's more difficult for first degrees. It's even more difficult for MSCs. Basically, the only people who remain untouched are those who are going to do their PhD.
Wow.
They have put restrictions on dependents coming with those who have academic visas. So they have been screaming. I mean, the amount of people who have been migrating into our country is becoming troublesome. We may not be able to manage it. And they have a right to do that. Now, why are Nigerian students having to migrate? You talked about the question you asked was, does it mean that Nigerians do not deserve an education or good education? And my response, the reason why I brought up this example is because Nigerians want to get an education, and Nigerians are willing to pay much higher. But they know that if it's a 3-year degree, after 3 years, I've graduated. If it's a 4-year degree, after 4 years, if you say the MSc program is 18 months, I'm done. But here right now, I'm sure you know 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 people who are doing their masters and they've been on that project for 4 years or 5 years. Is it actually cheaper?
Supreme Court in Tuesday declined to sack of the 7-man panel of the court led by Justice application on the premise that he validly nominated father of Progressive Congress as the past tenure. The application further validated Stanton office as the governor. Though the appeal was brought by Uche Osu, who was the governorship candidate of the Action Alliance, Democratic Party, and its Ehidioa, on the said contest applied to be less interested and Ehidioa prayed the fact to that his qualified was on the ground that he was nominated by both the AA and the All Progressive Congress to contest the election. The appellant argued that if the Apex Court recognized Wosu as a candidate of the APC, there was no legal basis for its subsequent judgment that sacked Ihedioa and declared Uzodimma, who was also sponsored by the same APC, as the valid winner of the governorship poll. Chairman of the Imo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, Charles Ugu, has been suspended from the party. This was made known to newsmen in Owerri on Tuesday in a statement by the State Secretary of the party in Jaka, Duru Ihoma. Some of the reasons they allege include that Ugu failed to summon meeting of State Working Committee since August 2023. Also, he was said to have refused to participate in the 2023 Imo State governorship campaign of the party. Meanwhile, the zonal chairman of the party in Igwe Zone, Imo North Senatorial District, Mr. Chidi DK, has taken over as interim state chairman of the party. Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Mbah, has presented the budget for 2024 fiscal year to the State House of Assembly. The budget, Christian budget of disruptive economic growth, is estimated at 521,561,386,000 and is structured to propel growth and bring about a paradigm shift. The governor, while appreciating the lawmakers for the expedite action given to the supplementary budget, appealed to them to give the current budget the same attention. He maintained that his administration's vision remains to make Enugu among the top 3 in terms of GDP and achieve zero poverty. Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State has presented a budget of 325.3 billion naira for the 2024 to the State House of Assembly for approval. Presenting the budget, Christian budget of home run and finishing strong, Obaseki said it was made up of 178 billion naira capital expenditure and 146 billion naira recurrent expenditure. He said that the budget was slightly higher than that of 2023, which was 321.4 billion naira. Obaseki said that the total projected revenue for 2024 was 303 billion naira, consisting of 55 billion naira statutory allocations, VAT 38 billion naira, capital receipt of 40 billion, IGR 72 billion naira, and 10 billion naira from grants. He added that the balance will be sourced from development, financing, and financial institutions. Obaseki stated that revenue estimate for the budget was based on a $65 per barrel benchmark for crude oil and average daily production of 1.6 million barrels per day, as well as an increase in IGR to 72 billion naira. Receiving the budget, the Speaker of the House, Blessing Agbe-Baku, promised to look at it carefully to ensure it was in line with the promise to stimulate the economy. Ondo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party says the ill health and absence of the state governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, has grounded the state economically. The PDP, which expressed its displeasure over the developments, declared that the governor must hand over power to his deputy, Lokia Datiwa, for governance to continue in the state. State chairman of PDP, Fatai Adams, stated this in Akure while speaking on the present state of the sunshine of the state. Adams alleged that the cabal and government had been taking advantage of the ill health and absence of the governor to perpetrate evil in the government. Reiterating the call for transmission of power to the deputy governor, the PDP chairman urged Akeredolu to adopt the advice he gave late former President Umar Yar'Adua and transmit the power to enable him to attend to his health properly. Oyo State Governor Kinde has presented a total budget of over 434 billion naira for the 2024 fiscal year. The figure is made up of a capital expenditure of over 222 billion naira and a recurrent expenditure of 211 billion naira. He christened the 2024 budget as budget of economic recovery. According to Makinde, the capital expenditure is 2.4% higher than the recurrent expenditure. The governor said the budget estimates an increased internally generated revenue of 72 billion with an average of 6 billion naira monthly. The governor presented the budget on Tuesday to the 32-member House of Assembly at an event with top government functionaries, traditional rulers, and political office holders, among others, in attendance. He said the government will continue to use technology to block loopholes, noting that the government has no plan to increase taxes. He assured that the budget will cover projects, policies, and actions which, when implemented, will cushion the effect of the hardship the people are facing due to fuel subsidy. Academic Staff Union of Universities has raised the alarm that most departments and units in Nigeria's public universities were short-staffed due to the resignation of lecturers in search of greener pastures. The chairman of the University of Ibadan chapter of ASU, Professor Ayo Akinwole, who disclosed this in Ibadan, Oyo State, said the Nigerian public universities were in very pitiable conditions, with stress and frustration visible in the faces of poorly remunerated lecturers. The chairman said poor and delayed salaries, unpaid allowances, poor infrastructure, lack of respect for the academic community, and the seeming dwindling hope are some of the factors responsible for the resignation of lecturers in the past few months. Akinwole suggested that establishing more universities will not solve the problem, but rather improve the capacity of existing universities to be able to admit students. 21 local government caretaker chairmen have been sworn into office by Governor Hyacinth Alia. The swearing-in ceremony took place on Monday in Makadi, the Benue State capital. Governor Alia, while addressing the newly sworn in caretaker chairman, said with the appointment, his administration has demonstrated determination to re-inject vibrancy in the administration of the local government system. He added that local government, being among the three tiers of government, is critical to the operation of his administration as it plays a major role in the provision of social services to the people. Governor Alia urged the newly sworn-in chairman and members of the interim council to embrace this opportunity to lead with integrity, transparency, and fairness. Speaking on behalf of the appointees, the Konshisha local government caretaker chairman, Philip Achua, pledged their support to the governor for the success of his administration. He said they would adhere to the do's and don'ts as stipulated in the Constitution. He added that the chairman would ensure the grassroots feel the impact of the 7-point agenda while calling for teamwork from the masses to ensure they succeeded in the local government. All Progressives Congress has inaugurated an 11-man committee to review the outcome of the November 11 governorship election in the state. Speaking during the inauguration of the party secretariat in Lokoja on Tuesday, the APC chairman in Kogi State, Abdullahi Bello, said one of the terms of reference of the committee is to identify all cases and incidences of anti-party activities by party members and recommend appropriate disciplinary actions. Bello stated further that the committee is also to review and state clearly the roles and performances of the party members saddled with the conduct of the election before, during and after the exercise. According to him, the committee is expected to undertake a detailed review of the processes leading up to the election and how the election was executed in each local government of the state. Bello added that the committee should endeavor to identify party members who displayed acts of unbridled loyalty, commitment, dedication, courage, and boldness in the face of hostile political environment during the election and recommend them for adequate recognition. Members of the committee are the Speaker, Kogi State House of Assembly, Honorable Ali Umar Yusuf, Professor Usman Ogbo, Honorable Funsho Olumoko, Barrister James Fabola, amongst others. Nasarawa State University CAFE has conducted the matriculation of its pioneer students into 3 distinct engineering programs within its recently established Faculty of Engineering. The ceremony took place on Tuesday at the Goody campus of the institution. Governor Abdullahi Sule, who graced the occasion and presented the inaugural matriculation lecture, was also honored with an award of recognition for his essential role in the establishment of the Faculty of Engineering, located in his hometown of Goody. The ceremony was attended by notable figures, including the former governor of the state and the Sadwana Gwandara, Senator Umaru Tanko Almakura. Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 10 Headquarters, Sokoto AIG Abubakar Lawadara, presented checks amounting to 5.6 million naira to the families of 1 late inspector and 2 civilian staff attached to the zonal headquarters under the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Betukun Family Group Life Assurance Scheme and IGP Welfare Scheme. Beneficiaries who were presented with the checks of different amounts were Samuel Ilya, Atahiru Muhammad, and Fatima Manir on behalf of their families. While presenting the checks to the beneficiaries at the zonal headquarters on behalf of the IGP Daura, said the Inspector General of Police is very passionate about the welfare of the officers and men of the Nigeria Police Force, either dead or alive. He further assured that the police will not relent in its welfare scheme for its personnel who have sacrificed their lives fighting for the peace and progress of the country. New Nigeria's People's Party General Assembly has finally dumped the Kano State Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf, saying he is not a registered member of the party as the Election Tribunal and Appeal Court ruled. Referring to letters addressed to the Inspector General of Police and Director General of the Directorate of State Security Services, the NNPP, at a press conference addressed by its national chairman, Dr. Agbo Major, expressed concern over the escalating in Kano State. They lamented that the unrest characterized by press interviews, protests, incitements, attacks on the judiciary, malicious remarks, institutional disruptions, visits to embassies, and road blockades have reached an alarming level. He said that upon thorough investigation, the party discovered that the riots were coordinated by Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso and led by non-Kano indigents, namely Dipo Johnson, Kawu Ali, and Onu, all of whom are expelled members of our party. The BOT chairman said following a 3-day retreat after submitting leaders to relevant security agencies and embassies, they have reached the following resolutions. Our party upholds the sanctity of Nigeria and is committed to ensuring the safety of lives and property as guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution. Ahead of the Kano State governorship case at the Supreme Court, no fewer than 500 private legal practitioners have volunteered to defend the governorship candidates of the All Progressive Congress in the states, Nasir Gawuna. This follows the recent offer by over 200 lawyers to represent the dismissed Governor Abba Yusuf and the new Nigeria's People's Party in the appeal suit at the Apex Court. The lawyers, under the aegis of the Guardians of Democracy and Rule of Law, said the decision to defend Gawuna was a move to save Nigeria's democracy from both riggers and serial election fraudsters. The spokesman of the group, Joseph E. Onwudiwe, disclosed this to newsmen in Abuja. The group noted that having secured victories at the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal and Appeal Court, the legal practitioners expressed confidence that Gawuna will again emerge at the Supreme Court. People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate in the February 2015 election, Atiku Abubakar, has called on concerned authorities to conduct a thorough investigation into the accidental bombing of locals in the Turdenberry community of Kaduna State by the Nigerian Army on Sunday. The former Vice President of Nigeria made the call while expressing his condolences to the families and victims of the accident in a statement on his official X handle on Tuesday. No fewer than 30 residents were killed in the incident, which took place around 9 p.m. on Sunday. While praying for the response of souls lost in the incident, Atiku called for proper medical attention for survivors and assistance to the families of the dead. Recall that the Nigerian Air Force had earlier denied responsibility for the attack, but the overseeing Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, later said in a statement on Monday that the General Officer commanding 1 Division Nigerian Army and Force Commander Operation Wild Punch, Major General Okoro, admitted that the Nigerian Army was on a routine mission against terrorists when the incident happened. National Emergency Management Agency says 85 people were killed in the air attack by the Nigerian Army on Tudunbiri village in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Nema Northwest Donor spokesman Halima Suleiman told reporters at a press briefing that 66 additional people were injured in the Sunday bombing. She stated that the local fatality figures were obtained from local officials following the burial of the bodies on Monday. However, emergency personnel were still working with community leaders to defeat tension so that they could enter the area. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ordered a probe on Tuesday after the army admitted that one of its drones had accidentally struck the Tudunbiri hamlet as people were celebrating a Muslim festival. The army did not provide death estimates, but residents stated that 85 people were murdered in the incident, many of whom were women and children. You are watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
It's Christmas season! Hooray! A time to make merry with loved ones, a time to give thanks, and a time to be a blessing. May your holiday season be filled with joy, laughter, and beautiful moments. From all of us in Morrison Communications Limited, Wish 99.5 FM and Atlantic Television Network, we wish you a Merry Christmas full of amazing experiences. Cheers to a beautiful year end. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Now the rest of our stories. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tarid Labaja has described the deadly airstrike that killed 85 people and injured several others in Kaduna State as regrettable. The Army chief visited the site of the mishap that has thrown the nation into sorrowful mood, apologized on behalf of the Nigerian Army to the community, the government, and the people of Kaduna State. Labaja, who visited victims 2 days after the accidental strike in the Igabi area of the Northwest State, promised to guard against such occurrence in the conduct of military operations. The Army chief was accompanied by principal staff officers from the Army headquarters and the general officer commanding 1 division, and also met with the Dangaladima Zazao, district head of Rigasa, Architect Aminu Idris, other leaders and members of Federal High Court order sitting in Abuja has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission within 90 days order its officials who were involved in the registration of the underage during the continuous voters registration exercise in polling units across the country to surrender themselves to authorities for investigation and possible prosecution. In a judgment, Justice Abiora Iguatu, who called for the alleged culprits to be produced and handed over to law enforcement agents, equally made a mandatory order compelling INEC to expunge forthwith from its national voters register the names of all the underage voters from each of the polling units across the Federation as published on her website. Reacting on Atlantic Television blowout, a public affairs analyst, Gogo Wellington, identified the exercise as being an escapee of resources in facilities, citing several irregularities compounding national electoral umpire.
Define underage voters, right? Because there's no way they would have registered them and captured their ages below 18. The only time that this issue was raised was when voters started emerging and you started seeing that they were obviously infants, and then some pictures from the voters register were pointed out. I believe this thing trended on Twitter before the elections.
And this is not the first year.
Yeah,
too.
People raised these concerns, right? People brought this thing, it was an issue of national discourse, and INEC kept mute about it. Those same people possibly went ahead and casted votes in most of these areas, and these things mostly happened in the north, and the votes were counted. A president has been elected and declared by these same voters. So what this is just medicine after death. And when you look at that judgment, it is vague. It is vague because who are the accused persons that are to be produced by INEC? What polling units or registration? Who is going to take responsibility? The same INEC that cannot conduct election is the agency or the body that will now bring people that registered under age voters when they could not even prosecute staff that were manipulating election materials, changing results, and doing all sorts when the evidence.
Detriment of their future.
Right? Who do you call your brother? The person that will get allocation to build schools, put it in his pocket and buy an SUV. Send his children abroad to go and take selfie and show us how much better. President Tinubu convicted for drug pushing and all that. Does it mean you have to now be in the negative before you get elected or you get selected, whatever it is, as to occupy a political position? So there is no other way to explain state capture than to see a situation where a cartel has taken over the affairs of state and the power, political power in a country like this. But why I blame us is because most of these countries, especially in the West, that are developed now, did not get this their good democratic dispensation cheap. These things come with serious sacrifices. Sacrifices like the French Revolution, sacrifices like the British-American War, sacrifices like the people always fight for their freedom. But in Nigeria, we want God to come and do it for us because we only pray for it in
Leadership of National Committee Against Torture has held capacity building in Abuja to galvanize towards creating a torture-free criminal justice system in Nigeria. The event is aimed at promoting the United Nations Convention Against Torture project with support from the Australian High Commission in Nigeria. Solicitor General of the Federation, Permanent Secretary and Chair National Committee Against Torture, Beatrice Jadi Agba, represented by Dr. Mozoje Okobo, said Nigeria is in a struggle to eradicate torture issues and has put measures to checkmate the lapses of legal and administrative framework, saying there is more to be done to ensure that torture by public officials come to an end.
Very important workshop on how to work to prevent torture in the justice system here in Nigeria. We're very happy because this is actually the second workshop that Avocats Sans Frontières have done. We are supporting them for both so that they can help spread the message to the members of the National Committee Against Torture in order to make sure that there are many learnings that have been taken away that enhance their capacities and also mean that there is going to be a stronger response in terms of both legislation as well as actual action in the field in order to help people who have been victims of torture in order to get redress and to hold perpetrators to account.
For the National Committee Against Torture. And this is part of our support at ASF France to the National Committee. They are able to effectively deliver on their mandate to curb torture, the menace of torture in Nigeria. And in order to achieve this, we have put together this event with the support of the Australian High Commission in Nigeria. We are providing support to the National Committee Against Torture to ensure that they are able to deliver on their mandate as set by the Minister of Justice and also as set under the United Nations Convention Against Torture, which aims to eradicate all forms of torture.
The Assistant Controller General, Nigeria Correctional Service, Emmanuel Wankeze, said Nigeria Correctional Service has been on the forefront of a fight to end torture, adding that in every Nigeria Correctional Service center, there are welfare officers who make sure no inmate is tortured.
The issue of torture is one that the nation is desirous of eradicating and has put appropriate measures to checkmate lapses in legal and public officials comes to an end, and that victims are able to have reconstituted the National Committee Against Torture, NCAT, now Committee Against Torture Nigeria, CAT Nigeria. The committee was reconstituted with the aim of pooling experiences and resources from individuals and organizations that have dealt with this scourge of torture. Our aim is to harness these resources to help in eradicating torture in Nigeria, apart from simple anti-torture acts, such that perpetrators are brought to book, constraints associated with investigating and prosecuting an input of members here present, to devise creative means of addressing the problem of torture in Nigeria, particularly in our detention centers.
On their part, the Deputy High Commissioner said that the internal dispute APJ had played a significant role in causing the complexity of the case. The Supreme Court in Abuja has imposed a fine of 40 million naira on human rights activist and constitutional lawyer Chief Mike Ezekome for filing a frivolous, vexatious, and irritating motion before the court in respect of Imo governorship tussle decided in 2019. Ezekome, senior advocate of Nigeria, caught a Nigerian bar over 42 years ago and was fined a huge amount for bringing a motion for the Apex Court seeking to revalidate the suits that removed Emeka Ihedioha as governor of Imo State in 2019. The senior lawyer was ordered in a ruling by Justice Tijani Abubakar to personally pay the 40 million naira fine for respondents to be dragged. There's to be paid at the Action People's Party Nandi State Mosu and the Independent National Election. In the motion, considered to be frivolous by the court, May has asked for consequential audit to compel INEC to issue a process of return to Ihedioha to enable him to spend the 4 years as governor. However, the Apex Court on the ground that it has no jurisdiction to Justice Abubakar held the ruling that the request was strange, frivolous, and baseless, unwarranted, vexatious, and irritating. He further held that the motion was a calculated design to demonize the Supreme Court. As part of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's food security policy, the federal government of Nigeria has urged all Nigerians to engage in planting activities, emphasizing that approximately 50 million hectares of the country's 80 million hectares of arable land remain unused. The Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, issued this call from his office in Abuja while addressing Senate correspondents, highlighting food security as the most critical aspect among President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 8-point agenda. He emphasized its multifaceted benefits. He suggested that some of these advantages include combating corruption, as hunger can drive some individuals towards corrupt practices, and elevating poverty-linked crime, both of which can be significantly mitigated through enhancing.
The level of productivity growth possible in Nigeria is huge because the yield gap is a potential area of investment. And out of 70 or 80 in some statistics, million hectares of arable land available in Nigeria, we are only using 34 million hectares. The gap is more than 50%. So we still have a lot of areas, potential expansion. So I want to call all of you, whether your backyard or within your neighborhood, if you have a space, measuring even if it's 4 by 4, with the kind of technologies that are coming into agriculture, we want to encourage you to plant something. That is a way to contribute to food security.
The minister also disclosed that the government is committed to cultivating a significant portion of the currently unused hectares of land in the country.
And like you rightly all knew, the total package of this 8-point agenda, both directly and indirectly and even tangentially, agriculture and food security has a lot of role to play. And we realize this when you talk about food security, which is the first, economic growth and job creation. Agriculture has the capacity for every dollar invested in agriculture, it generates up to 25% job creation. Because when you develop a value chain, studies have confirmed that yes, it's capable of giving up to 25% job creation annually. So it's a very veritable, for us in Nigeria, the level of agriculture is such that job creation is an imperative part of it. And when you talk about poverty eradication, the moment you increase productivity of farm families and help them to improve their
House of Representatives Committee on Pensions has commended the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate for the successes recorded since its inception. The committee, however, urged improved service delivery. Committee Chairman Honorable Sani Jallo, who led other members of the committee on an oversight visit to PTAD on Tuesday in Abuja, said this. Jallo, who acknowledged the achievements of the Directorate and joined PTAD to work harder, adding that services being rendered by the organization were of utmost importance. He said that the 10th Assembly would support PTAD in achieving its mandate in the interest of all pensioners in the country. Earlier, the Executive Secretary of PTAD, Dr. Chioma Ejikeme, who received them to the Directorate, reeled out the achievement of the organization in years. Public Accounts Committee of the House of Representatives investigating the alleged mismanagement of COVID-19 intervention funds from 2020 to 2021 has queried officials of the Federal Road Maintenance Agency on the utilization of the over 60 billion naira allocated to the agency during the dreaded COVID-19 epidemic. Committee Chairman Honorable Bamidele Salam and members expressed disappointment over the way and manner the management of the agency led by its Managing Director Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Chukwuemeka Agbasi, appeared before the committee without enough copies of the requested document. The agency, with large delegation, was rescheduled to reappear before the committee on Monday. 60 copies document for members of the committee instead tendered only 11 copies in the morning of the same Monday, as against last Friday, the deadline for submitting the document. While ruling on the matter, the chairman disclosed that the committee would take another critical look into the books of the agency and requested for more specific documents, vouchers, pictorial evidences of all the projects.
Please, cardiac chair position. Cardiac chair position. In page 41, you fed them for the cardiac chair position. Also, page 133, you also paid them again in that same cardiac chair position.
It just says payment for procurement, installation, and commissioning of medical equipment for molecular lab. The other one says payment for supply of medical equipment for molecular lab. But we don't have any breakdown of what was paid for. We don't have any breakdown of what was received. You know, how do we explain these figures without even an attachment that shows exactly what you purchased? So this is absolutely incomplete because we don't know if we are paying for the same thing.
There are quite a whole lot of issues in these documents that you have here, a whole lot. I have a letter of award here for 309 million naira for the procurement of medical equipment to Mesa JNC. By your summary, you said you awarded the contract for 308 million, but the letter of award indicated 309 million 442,000 naira. Same JNC. Quite a whole lot. But like I said, this is something that we cannot also conclude without them providing all these.
An ad hoc committee headed by Honorable Jeremiah Umaru was set up to verify the projects as presented by FEMA. In a related development, the House Committee on Finance has urged Nigeria's Civil Defense Corps and NICDC to review its licensing and yearly upward for private guard companies as a means of increasing revenue generation capacity, especially in this time when revenue is to fund the 2024 budget. The committee described as grossly inadequate the one-off license fee of 2 million naira grade for grade 1 security guard companies with more than 500 guards under employ, and 1.5 for grade 2 companies with less than 500 with a yearly renewal fees of 200,000 naira and 100,000 naira for 2 categories of companies.
are here purely for revenue monitoring. And from what we have heard, the need to do reconciliation with fiscal responsibility to iron out the 690 million, 666 million for 2022. And we have requested for a list of all private guard companies, their location, their categories, and their renewal, the cost of renewal.
So submitted before this committee that you are aware that the amount you charge private guard operators are ridiculous and not competitive with the reality of our time. I said we'll be making efforts to review it. So I think it's important for you to come up properly with an update and submit to appropriate, so that we can look at it and review it. It's important. The amount we are generating from the private operators are.
Deputy Commandant General of the NSCDC, Unwi Wokuche, who was at the continued hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Finance on the medium-term expenditure framework, had revealed that there are about 1,300 private guard companies registered in the country, with 400 of them in Lagos alone. The chairman of the House Committee on Finance demanded for a full register of security guard companies operating in the country, the full addresses, amounts paid as license and renewal fees over the years, to give the committee proper insights into the operation. The House of Representatives Committee on Hydrological Services and Hyperdeck has indicated its readiness to synergize with stakeholders to realize its mandates, which include improving power generation across the nation. Chairman of the committee, Honorable Pascal Agbodike, gave the indication while giving his address during the inaugural meeting of the committee in Abuja. Honorable Agbodike, who noted that commitment, competence, and hard work is needed to succeed as the committee, urged members to be ready for a vigorous oversight of hydrological services and hyperdeck in order to turn around with power generation and distribution services to meet the needs of Nigerians.
To that place to oversight what they are doing there. And other projects that they are doing in the hyperdeck and the hydrological services, which are taught to project site and see things one-on-one. By next week, we shall interface with the agencies under hydrological services and the hyperdeck committee. It is an agency which will pay proper attention to. Based on that, I and my committee members, we are ready to give proper oversight function. We are ready to assist the agency to achieve their mandate. We shall look into their budget and see what they presented and how we can make it to be more effective. We are ever ready to start up this core function.
Nigerian Senate has stated that it will not tolerate weak attitudes towards defense submission from government workers in ministries, departments, and agencies. The legislature stated that it was committed to continuing the budget's implementation cycle from January to December. Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, issued a warning on Tuesday in Abuja during a one-day retreat on the 2024 appropriation bill. The retreat, hosted by the Senate Appropriation Committee, is titled Budget and Budgetary Processes Delivering Improved Outcomes of the 2024 Appropriation Bill. Akpabio, represented by Deputy Senate President Barao Jibril, stated that the consequences will not be palatable for any official or agencies that frustrates the passage of the bill. He stated that the 2024 appropriation bill was unquestionably a big national event. According to him, the significance stemmed from the fact that it was another step in the pledges made by the 10th National Assembly to ensure an all-inclusive budget process for the greater national good and to accomplish the nation's commitment to the budget cycle. President Bola Tinubu has returned to Abuja after attending the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference, which took place in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Apart from participating in the conference, the president had bilateral talks with King Charles of England, the president of UAE, and leaders of several countries and multilateral partners to concretize engagements. President Tinubu also witnessed the signing of an accelerated performance agreement between Nigeria and Germany to improve Nigeria's electricity supply and hosted a high-level meeting with stakeholders and investors on the Nigeria carbon market and the electric buses rollout program on the margins of the COP28 Climate Summit. Tinubu had on November 29, 2023, departed Abuja for Dubai for the summit expected to end on December 12, 2023. Tinubu-led government was under fire for 1,411 Nigerian registered delegates at the summit, a figure considered as bloated by many critics, though the government said it only funded 422 persons to the summit. Now to business news. Nigeria Labour Congress has said the commencement of negotiation of the new national minimum wage in 2024 will be based on the prevailing cost of living in the country. Jero NLC president said this at the ongoing 19th edition of the NLC 2023 Hamatan School organized by the Congress on Tuesday in Abuja. The theme of the event is building workers' skills for policy engagement. The Hamatan School is part of the NLC National Schools, where it trains and empowers members of its affiliated unions through skills development. Ajero, represented by Benjamin Anthony, Vice President of NLC, said it was necessary for our government at all levels to recognize that life and living conditions are exceedingly difficult. NNPC Limited has expressed its commitment to work with global partners in the march towards reducing methane emissions in oil and gas operations. A statement by the company's corporate communications officer, Olufemi Soneye, in Abuja, said NNPC Limited made the commitment on the sidelines of the ongoing United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as COP28, taking place in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, where the Oil and Gas Decarbonization Charter was released. The charter calls on the oil and gas sector to achieve the goal of reaching net zero emissions for their own operations by 2050. It also includes commitments to achieve near zero methane emissions and no routine flaring by 2030. NNPC's Limited Executive Vice President Upstream Orisemeyiwa ASN, who spoke on the development during a panel session titled Accelerating the Elimination of Methane Emissions and the Decarbonization of Oil and Gas, said the charter was a major opportunity not just for the NNPC Limited but for the African sub-region. She described finance and technology as the major challenges in delivering on the provisions of the charter, noting that for the two problems to be solved African countries work with partners who have the technology and finance. Said NNPC Limited remains committed to expanding its alternative energy through investment in solar, wind, and renewable sources. The federal government and the government of Kuwait on Tuesday signed a bilateral air service agreement. The accord was formalized during the ongoing COP28 in Dubai, reflecting in a commitment to fostering international cooperation and innovation. The signing ceremony took place at the Hilton Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, said the agreement marks a pivotal moment in the diplomatic relations between Nigeria and Kuwait, opening avenues for enhanced connectivity and economic cooperation. Just in a statement by his spokesman, Tunde Mushood, Keyamo expressed optimism about the prospects of the agreement, emphasizing its potential to boost trade, tourism, and people-to-people exchanges between Nigeria and Kuwait. The statement said the federal government remains committed to fostering strong ties with nations around the world, and the bilateral air service agreement with Kuwait is a testament to this. And now to international. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi will visit Russia on Thursday for talks with Vladimir Putin as the two countries strengthening economic and military ties in the face of Western sanctions. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov disclosed this report today. Putin visited Iran in July last year, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov traveled to Tehran in October for talks with regional counterparts. Western countries have accused Tehran of supporting Russia's offensive in Ukraine by providing it with large quantities of drones and other weaponry. A magnitude 5.7 earthquake shook the Philippine capital Manila on Tuesday, sending people rushing out of the buildings and briefly halting train services in the city. According to reports, the strong quake struck off the country's main island of Luzon at a depth of 77 kilometers, about 94 kilometers southwest of Manila. Patrolman Mark Dukayanan said his police station on the Bank Island, less than 50 kilometers southwest of the epicenter, shook for about 10 seconds. It comes after a series of powerful earthquakes and aftershocks of the country's southern island of Mindanao, following a magnitude 7.6 quake late Saturday that briefly triggered a tsunami warning. At least 3 people were killed and 17 injured after the quake hit, with thousands still in evacuation. The United Nations has warned that it was impossible to create a so-called safe zones for civilians to flee inside the Gaza Strip amid Israel's bombing campaign. Israel has initially focused its offensive on the north of the territory, but the army has now also dropped leaflets on parts of the south, telling Palestinian civilians they are there to flee to other areas. James Elder, spokesman for the UN Children's Agency, comments came as Israeli troops battled Hamas militants in the southern Gaza Strip after expanding their offensive deeper into the area. Israel said it was at war with Hamas after the militants' October 7 attacks that had killed 1,200 people, mostly civilians, which saw around 240 hostages taken, according to Israeli authorities. In retaliation for the worst attack in history, Israel has vowed to eradicate Hamas and secure the release of all the hostages held in Gaza. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, making music producer Sass, who has written his name in Afrobeats history books, is set to deliver another exciting international collaboration. Sass, who has crafted hit records for Nigerian stars, including Kid Ramani's World, Doje Niniola, BNS Sen, Crayon, and several others, is set to release a new single featuring Ashake, an American hip-hop star Ghana. The single, whose title is yet to be revealed, has generated excitement from listeners who can't wait to see the result of the collaboration between 3 artists in red-hot form. 2023, Sass maintained his status as a hitmaker by producing Crayons Ngozi featuring Ira Star and BNX Sen's Guadwalada featuring Shei and Kizdano, among other records. Ghana has also enjoyed a commercially successful 2023 with the release of his album Gift and the Curse, which delivered the smash hit Fukmin. Afrobeat sensation Davido is set to dazzle fans at the upcoming Bear With Us festival, with organizers confirming that the event date for December 27 at Landmark Beach in Vegas. This year's edition is creating a buzz as Davido, often called OBO, is to deliver a sensational performance. With a string of chart-topping hits, he has captured the hearts of music enthusiasts across Nigeria. Davido's rise in the music industry, from his debut single Back When in May 2011 to recent chart toppers like Dami Duro, Aye, Kelewu overseas, and Gobe, have solidified his status as a global music icon. His latest album, Timeless, released on March 31st, 2023, through Davido Music Worldwide, Columbia Records, and Sony Music Entertainment, has elevated him to new heights in the global music scene. And now to sports news. Sheffield United has reappointed Chris Wilder as manager after sacking Paul Heckingbottom following a miserable start to the Premier League season. CEO Stephen Bettis said the club, bottom of the table, needed a boost in their battle for survival. Heckingbottom is the first manager to be fired this season in the English top flight after 11 defeats in 14 league games, leaving them 4 points behind from safety. Bettis praised Heckingbottom's professionalism and dedication in a club statement. Shortly afterwards, the club issued a fresh statement confirming Wilder was back in the hot seat, having signed a contract until 2025. Bettis said Wilder was the best possible option to give the Blades a change in fortune. Heckingbottom, appointed permanent manager in November 2021, guided the club back to the Premier League with a second-place championship finish last season. The 46-year-old voices frustration after his side's 5-0 defeat at Burnley at the weekend, the club's third loss by 5 goals or more. Pep Guardiola said he believed Manchester City will win a record 4th consecutive Premier League title despite a 3-match winless run. Defending champions have drawn their past 3 league games against Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham and are 3 points behind leaders Arsenal ahead of Wednesday's match at Aston Villa. City have been unusually leaky in defence, conceding 8 goals over those 3 matches as they prepare for a tough test against Unai Emery's men, who have won their past 13 home league games in a row. Guardiola admitted that last season's treble winners need tightening up at the back, but said they were not losing many games. The City boss said despite their stumbles, he was confident his men were on track to become the first team in English top-flight history to win 4 league titles in a row. City will be without suspended midfielder Rodri for the trip to Villa Park. They lost all 3 games earlier this season when he was previously suspended. John Stones will be fit to return, and Guardiola admitted he could push the England international into midfield in place of the Spaniard. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Potter Jones Fubara's case against Assembly. Supreme Court declines the sack Governor Zodima. Senate warns MDAs against sabotage. NLC seeks new national minimum wage. Iranian president Putin meets in Russia Thursday. Stars set to drop new single featuring Ashake. Guardiola predicts Man City will win Premier League. I am Valentina Lawrence. Thank you.